All right, hello everyone. This is Sir Adrian here, coming back to you with the random events going into the summer of 1915 in our current game of Global War 1914, titled Operation Bersaglieri. So we'll go ahead and start with the rolls for the West and see what we get. So we got a 3. So 3 is Italy wants more. So each alliance members may share the cost, may pay up to 5 IPP in concessions directly to Italy. So each 1 IPP gives the alliance with the highest bid a +1 and the opposite alliance a -1 modifier on the Italian entry roll. Each alliance writes their bids in secret on a sheet of paper prior to the roll. I was provided by my allies, as I myself am playing Imperial Russia, with what that bid would be. And I was also provided by one of the Central Powers members what their bid would be. And I only opened what the Central Powers bid would be after I'd looked at the allies, just to make sure everything stayed fair. So I do have both those numbers with me. So Italy collects from both alliances regardless of the outcome, and the modifier only lasts this round, even if Italy ends up staying neutral. So I can tell you right now that both sides bid 5, and for the Allies it'll be Sebskullion 2, or the UK/British Empire, that will be paying for all of that. And on the Central Powers, it's 5 IPP, so the maximum that they bid as well. And in terms of that, they still have yet to decide how they're going to split that up, but that'll be announced by MP7 before he starts the German turn, especially if he's paying some of it, just so he has the correct IPP amount that he will actually have to spend. And if he's not contributing anything, he can just say whether or not the Austro-Hungarians and Ottomans are sharing the cost, or if either of them is completely footing the bill themselves, as it were. So technically, because both sides both paid the same amount and neither won, it just cancels each other out. But the Italians, regardless of whichever side they do end up joining, will now start with 10 IPP. So that's 10 IPP for the Kingdom of Italy. So congrats to them. Now then, let's go ahead and roll for the East. So for the East, we get 4. So Japan and Russia cooperate. So the Japanese take possession of North Sakhalin Island, move any Russian units there to the nearest Russian territory. So this turn only, Japan receives +1 bonus income, and Russia may purchase up to 5 infantry for 2 IPPs each. And we have to roll for another random event if Japan and Russia are at war with each other, such as if Japan would be central powered, but that's not the case in our game. And in terms of the little history blurb, it just says Japan and Russia strike a deal to trade 300,000 Japanese rifles for territory and control of the Changchun Harbin Railway and navigation rights on the Sungari River. So I don't have any units in North Sakhalin, but that will become Japanese controlled. So I'll actually go ahead and grab a roundo for that real quick. So there we have it. So North Sakhalin is now Japanese territory. And yeah, and they can't remember, or they have to remember that +1 IPP they'll receive in bonus income at the end of this turn. And myself, as the Russians, I'll have to remember that I can buy up to 5 infantry for 2 IPPs each, which will be very good based on the current situation. So that's it for the random events. We are in a new calendar turn, but we don't have to worry about the fighters yet. There's no neutral additions. That's something that I had forgot to do in the spring of 1915. So going forward, I'll definitely make sure to check that when doing the random events. But I don't think it's until 2 or 3 more turns that there's more neutral additions. So now we'll get into the last item on the agenda. And aside from random events, the most interesting in this video, and that'll be the entry of the Kingdom of Italy into the war. So they've been waiting on the sidelines, staying out of the conflict that's been rapidly developing across the globe. And they've been courted by both sides, so we'll see what the results of that are. So I'll actually take this out of here real quick so I can show you this. In terms of how that works, at the beginning of the summer 1915, it says the French Republic, but really doesn't matter who does it. And seeing as I'm doing the random events, just like with the Japanese intro, I'll roll it. So they roll 1d12. So on a 1 to 2, the Italians are going to join the Central Powers and align to Austria-Hungary. On a 3 to 5, they'll remain neutral. And on a 6 to 12, it says align to the British here, but this was changed, and they will align to the French Empire. And I'll discuss it with my allies further, but I think it could be interesting for our American player, B-Guest, in this game to control the Italians, because that way there he can enter the war before the Americans do and have a bit more of a chance to maybe try out some combat and learn how things work in terms of some of that stuff a bit more as a new player. So I think that'd be very good for him to play the Italians. So in terms of the modifiers, there's several different things that affect this roll as opposed to that for the Japanese. That has some in some cases, but usually far less. So the ones that are minus, that's the stuff that the Central Powers would like to hit, whereas the ones that are positive are the ones that would be better for us, of course, because we want a higher roll. So for each city captured by the Central Powers, that's -1. So I can already tell you that that's going to be -2, because the Central Powers have Warsaw, which the Germans possess, and the Austro-Hungarians have Kiev. So right there, that's going to be -2. Another -2 if they have 8 or more infantry units in Austria, which borders northern Italy, which I can tell you right now they do. And finally, there's a -1 if Japan joined the Allies. So in total, they will have a -4 modifier to whatever is rolled. So, and in terms of the allies, so we don't get the +1. That's if Japan joined the Central Powers. +1 each following turn. Italy is neutral. We'll see whether or not that applies. Although if they're neutral, that would only start applying next turn. +2 if there are less than 4 Central Power infantry units in Austria. That is not the case. So the only one we could get is a +2 if France agrees to lose a victory condition and give Italy to Tunisia. So Italy aligns Tunisia only if it joins the Allies. So Tunisia is down here. So France is going to have to give that up. So if Italy ends up joining the Allies, that is going to become Italian territory, a sort of colonial concession, if you will, that the French Empire, endorsed by the Allies, would give to the Italians to entice them to join our side, as the promise of more territory for your kingdom or empire and the resources that come with that is quite appealing. But France would lose a victory objective for that because they need all their starting territories to gain one of their victory objectives. But it could be worth the sacrifice. We shall see. So we'll go ahead and do the roll. So that's a 7. So to that, we would add, well, here we'll subtract first. So we would subtract 1, 2, 3, 4 due to the Central Powers modifiers. So that would bring them down to a 3. And then we add 2 due to France giving up Tunisia. So that would be a result of 5 total. So currently, the Italians are going to remain neutral. Yep, they'll remain neutral. So, it seems like they're not quite decided yet on which side they want to support in the war. So at the end of this current turn, when we come back for the random events going into the fall-winter of 1915, we'll roll that again, and we'll see if anything changes there. So that'll be everything aside from that for now, and I will hand things off to the German Empire for the start of the summer 1915 turn. Apologies for that, it's very dark over here, but summer 1915 turn. So until next time.